Welcome to today's podcast episode on MonicaAnn. I'm your host, MonicaAnn. If you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a podcast episode. I have Maria Lyons here, who is my really good girlfriend from church. We met in a women's group, and I'm so grateful to have you as my friend. You're such a lovely woman, and I know that for the people who are on my social media accounts, you actually gave me a ticket last Saturday because you weren't able to attend the women's retreat, and so I was able to go as a result of that. So thank you so much for the ticket, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on and tell your testimony, which is just absolutely amazing. So I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, and you can talk about what it is that you do as well.
Okay, thank you, Monica. And again, it's such a blessing to have you as my friend, a new circle of friends since Mia and I moved back here in Arizona about 2 years ago. And I'm so glad you were the perfect person to use that ticket for that women's conference that happened last weekend. So wonderful. And so, to everyone here, my name is Maria Lyons. I am from the Philippines. That's the country I am from. I was married to David, a wonderful guy, for 42 years. He is from Long Beach, Mississippi, and I lived 25 years there with him as we raised our 5 amazing children. And to this day, we have 14 grandkids. And
Wow.
so when David and I moved to Arizona, we have experienced, being an entrepreneur. We have experienced different businesses that we just got our hands on and loved the life of being entrepreneurs and leaders and all of that, creating, blessing people's lives. And how did we do that? Well, we were involved in real estate and we were investors. And that was one of the reasons why we moved to Arizona, because we saw that it was a very healthy market. Now, at that time, we were already empty nesters, and David was still working with a company. He retired from Mississippi. And when we moved here in Arizona, he was found by a headhunter. A huge company was looking for somebody with his skills. And so they offered him the position, and he says, why not? And I said, yeah, absolutely. You're so passionate about this kind of work, go for it. So in the meantime, I also got myself involved in a company that was marketing health products, and we were involved in Asia. I was doing a lot of things with the Asian market and helping people, to the point where, David and I, we were doing so well with our real estate investments. And then, to some of you that may know what happened here in Arizona or around, the United States, back in 2006, 7s and 8s, when the real estate market plummeted, it bellied up, the balloon busted, and we were caught in all of that. And it was disheartening. It was a dark moment in our lives, to where David and I had to face bankruptcy. That was the only way we could get out of the mess that we were in. So to give you an idea, we had 27 properties. All of those were being rented, and I loved the industry. We were helping many people buy their own home, their first home, and we were kind of like the financing part of it. They didn't have to deal with banks. So that was my way of helping mom and dad that was starting over, or maybe it was their first home. So I loved that, giving them that dream home that they've been looking for. But what happened to us investors, it was a very dark time. So with that bankruptcy that David and I had to go through, and we had a debt of over $1 million, and we knew that we had to pay that back because that was all the taxes. I mean, to give you an idea, everything went down. The industry went down. We filed for bankruptcy, but there was one thing: Uncle Sam needed to get paid. And that was a part that we did not skimp. We knew that it was our responsibility, and we had a God. We knew that we couldn't run away from that. So we did everything that we could to make that happen. And one of the ways that I helped out, because David went ahead and got a second job, a part-time job, just to help pay the debt off, and downsized, moved from a big house into a small apartment. And it was something he and I really talked a lot and planned. And because our business at that time with the health products was doing so well in the Asian market. That was when I asked myself, what if I went back to the Philippines and, marketed this product and helped people? So we talked about it, and David says, you know what? I'm here for you. Thank you for being the kind of wife that is, we're working together to get through all of this. And I said, we're in this together. It's not just one person dealing with this. So, with a lot of prayers, I went back to the Philippines and I started working the business there. So, what happened was, because I was living very amicably, small expenses, whatever income I earned, I was able to send to here to the United States to help make that payment happen, to the government. So we had to pay all of those taxes, to the point it took 5 years. We were able to pay that debt off. I mean, David and I were just high fiving. We were on Skype at that time. We were so excited, but a lot of prayers went along with it. It didn't happen without the prayers and our faith that was so strong, the bond that we had together, teamwork, it made it all happen. So, with all of that, I said, David, this isn't a bad place for us to retire. It's inexpensive. They speak English. You love the food. You will love the culture. Why not? So, we thought about it, talked about it, prayed about it, to where it finally happened. So when David retired, he retired early enough and lived in the Philippines. It gave me enough time to find property, to have it built, and to have our home while we were living in the Philippines. David and I were traveling all around the country, going to so many different Asian countries, because it was quite inexpensive there. In the middle of all of that, in 2013, there was a bad storm that came through one of the islands. The island across us was badly stricken. My island became the place of refugees, to where all of the people that lost their homes and lost families were all brought to my island of Cebu. And with that, everything just basically shut down during that period for about 2 to 3 months, where everybody in the community, it was beautiful, because such strong faith that everybody had, helping each other. We all bonded together and held hands, and helped with collecting of, clothing, beddings, and anything that we could do to bring to these hundreds and hundreds of people that lost homes. And all the churches, all the gymnasiums of my island, all opened up to accommodate all of the refugees that came in. Now, that happened November the 6th of 2013. Then, so moving along, and what we did every day, I collected friends, I gathered friends, and I said, hey, let's cook up a meal. Let's serve this to the kids. Let's serve this to families. And a lot of restaurants helped out, and everybody was just reaching out. So as I was doing that, traveling to different churches, helping out the children, giving them some nutritious food, giving them something to drink, and just talking to them. I love being around children. On the very last day of feeding, it was December 20, I knew that I was supposed to go to a place, a gymnasium that had about 200 to 300 people. And we were ready to go. And I had my friends. We cooked up a nice meal for the kids. And then I got a text that morning and says, hey, Mrs. Lyons, I just want you to know that the gymnasium that you're going to be coming to and bringing that food, you know what? It's empty. Early in the morning, there was a bus that came over, and everybody that was in that gymnasium had to leave, because that bus was taking them to the areas, to the home, or to different islands, to take them there. And it was all free. It was to relocate them where they wanted to go. So there aren't any people in here. And I go, oh my goodness, I have all of this food. I got to find a place. So I texted my friends and I said, hey guys, this is what just happened. Do you know of a place where we can bring this food to? And then my friend says, let me think. I'll get back to you. Then about 30 minutes of waiting, she texted back. She says, okay, I know of a church that has about 400 kids. Do you have enough food? They're still there. And I said, okay, yes, we have enough food. We can make this happen. So that's what we did. I collected my friends and I said, okay, let's go. So we got there. And sure enough, it was beautiful to just see all the children with, giving them out the food, the beverage that they were not getting because of the nutrition company that I was with. They gave me a lot of products to mix up. And hey, what kid does not like chocolate shakes, right?
Yeah.
So I made sure I made up all of those chocolate shakes and gave the little kids their drink, and it was with ice because in the country Philippines it's hot. So to embrace that cold drink was just amazing. So at the very last moment, it was right around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We were sweeping the floors. We were putting all the chairs and the tables together, cleaning up. And there was a guy that came up to me. He was walking slowly. And then I looked at him and I go, hey, have you eaten? Are you here for food? And he says, oh, yes, ma'am, I've already eaten. I said, okay, how can I help you? And then he says, well, I've seen you around the different gymnasiums and the churches working with children. And I said, yes, how can I help you? Do you need clothing? And he says, no, 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 I'm not here for that. And he was quiet and I was looking at him like, okay. And he says, this baby, I'm going to give this baby to you. And I go, what do you mean, give this baby to me? And then he says, I'm not the father. I picked up this child from the rubble of where my island was that was devastated with like a tsunami. All the houses are down, the rubble from the tidal waves. And I saw this child as I was leaving to get on the bus to get to your island. And I was not just going to leave that baby alone. So I took the baby, and it's been 2 weeks now, and I've seen you around the different gymnasiums and how you acted around the children, how you played with them. And you're the perfect person that I want to give this child to. And I go, no, 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 no. See, you got it all wrong. I cannot have another child in my life because I knew David and I were retiring. I've raised the 5 children. At the time, we had about 10 grandchildren. And I said, no, 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 I am not. And there was a nun nearby as she was sweeping the floors. And she goes, ma'am, excuse me, you better take that baby because if you don't, they will leave them on the sidewalk. I promise you, they will leave them on the sidewalk. And I go, oh, no, 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 that cannot happen. So then I looked at the man, and he was young. He was about like 18 or 19 years old. And he says, ma'am, I'm not the father. I don't have any money. I don't have any means. I'm going back to my island, and the bus is waiting for me, and I'm going to find my family. And I can't do that with a baby with me. So here, and I'm going, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. My heart is just pounding. Okay, okay, okay. I'm going to take this baby, but no, it does not mean that I'm going to keep and raise this child. No, 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 no. It's not going to happen. So the guy just left, and he says, God bless you, ma'am, and Merry Christmas, because it was December 20. And then I go just like that. No name, no paperwork. And I'm going, oh dear. And there was a chapel next door. And I walked inside the chapel. I knelt down and I said, Lord, I cannot have another child in my life. What's the meaning to all of this? But don't worry. I'm going to find the perfect family for this child. I'm going to make sure that they are Catholic. They're loving you. They're able to teach you and show this child who you are and what you're capable of, and just loving you and loving her and all of that. And she's going to learn all of that from this couple that I am yet to find. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to find this perfect couple. So at that very same time, David was in the US. Here in Arizona, he was tying up things. He was selling stuff because he was coming over to Cebu in a couple of few weeks. So then I just gave him a call. He was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Arizona time. I gave him a call and I said, hey, just want to let you know, I'm not in an accident, but I just need you to give me a call when you get this message. And he was asleep at that time. It would have been like early in the morning, and it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me in the Philippines. And he said, I just felt the phone buzzing so many times that I had to pick it up. So he picked it up and listened to my message. And then he says, okay, I'm calling you right now. So he gave me a call. Now, at that time, I had gotten into my vehicle and I go, okay, how am I going to strap this little child? I don't have a car seat. But okay, I know. I have tote bags. Okay, handbags. Okay, so I tucked the baby right there in the front seat, passenger seat with me. And I tucked those bags and I strapped the baby. And mind you, there were no diapers. So I said, oh, please, please, no accidents, okay? But the baby did well. And then I texted my sister and I said, I'm going to meet you at the restaurant where we had planned on having dinner, but just a little early. I got something to show you. So she goes, okay. So I went to see to my sister at the restaurant, and she looked at me. She says, why are you carrying a child? And then she looked at the child. She goes, oh my goodness, dark eyes, scabs, no hair. What is all this? A lot of wound in this child. And look, the skin is so rough. It's like sandpaper. Where'd you find this child? Looks like an alien. And she truly looked like an alien with the dark circles around the eyes, distended belly, and skinny body. She looked like a lollipop. Big head, skinny body, big tummy. And then I said, dear, this is what happened. And she goes, oh, and what are your plans now? What are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm still praying about this. But, I already called David, but he wants to do FaceTime. So I'm at a restaurant now. Let's do this. So I called David up, and there we were. And then I said, FaceTime, please. And we did. And he looked at me and he says, why do you have a baby in your arms? Here's the story. So after sharing the story with him, he says, sweetheart, do not fall in love. We cannot have another child in our lives. I'm retiring. I'm coming over. You know what? But can you please find a family, a family, and make sure? So he was telling me the kind of person they should be, their faith, what it should be, their means of living, and do they have the income to help provide for the child, and this and that. There were so many things he was asking me to think about, and I said, yeah, I got it all covered. Okay, I'm gonna text and email friends and family. But then he said, oh, look at her skin. Oh, bless her heart. Well, you know what? Spare no expense. Take her to the best pediatrician. Take her to the best doctor and get whatever skin lotion that is needed, and buy her some clothes, because all she had was a t-shirt and no diaper. And that's when I said, oh, okay, she's a girl. All right. So there I was, went to the store immediately and got diapers, got some milk and this and that. And that evening, I went ahead and texted friends and family, and I took pictures and I uploaded them. And I said, hey, anybody, this child was given to me, and you might know somebody that's looking for a child that would like to adopt a child. And everybody says, wow, Maria, that's amazing. But no, we're not ready for any additional in our family. So I emailed friends and family both in the Philippines and in the US. Now, two people, one lived in Canada and one lived in Arizona. Hey, I'm very interested. What do I have to do to bring that child over? And so I said, I don't know, but let me ask an attorney, a friend. So I asked that question, and this is what the attorney said. Oh, Maria, if you're looking at adoption, somebody that's out of the country, they're going to have to, there's two ways of doing it. Either they live in the Philippines for 5 years, straight 5 years, and adopt this child, or they would have to face international adoption, and that would be at least 50,000 US dollars down payment. That's how it works. And I go, oh, none of my friends can do that. So I shared it with my friends, and they says, no, I can't do that. I have my children in school. I can't live there for 5 years. And I said, okay, so it has to be a family that lives here already. Still nobody replied. And then that evening, so it was in the afternoon, I said, I got to take her to a pediatrician. So I went to a pediatrician. I went to a mall, and in the Philippines, they have doctor's offices in malls. So there I was, it was closing time, and I looked at the roster and I said, look at all of these pediatricians. Who do I choose? Where do I go? So I looked at the security guard and I asked him, and I said, excuse me, Mr. Guard, if you had a child you need to go see and take to a pediatrician, who would you see among all of these? And he says, oh, definitely this one. And I said, and why is that? She's been here the longest, and she's been the busiest clinic ever. So she must be good. I go, okay, that's good enough. So sure enough, she was still open. The secretary was there. She goes, hey, we're closed. And I said, but I'm still in the office. And I said, oh, tell the doctor this is what happened. I just need to see her. So the doctor says, bring her in. So I took the baby, and she was happy. I shared the story. She was happy to prescribe the lotion that was needed for her skin, and some drops, some kind of medication to help detox the body. And she talked to me about the distended belly, what it means. Is just be aware in the next few days, there might be like worms in there, which happens a lot in tropical countries and, countries in Asia. And I'm going, okay. And especially coming from a storm. Okay. So I was aware of that. Now, So then she was the one who made the first official report. I, Dr. So and so, and it was official paper that weighed the child. She's this, she's that, and skin, infection and this and that. That was my only official receipt or report that showed that I had a baby. And she did say to me, you must go to the Department of Social Services and report the child that you have a child that was given to you, because if you don't, you could be labeled as trafficker. And I go, oh, we certainly don't want that.
Yeah.
So the next day I knew that that was what I was going to do. So then that evening, David and I talked and we prayed about it. And it was December 20th. Then the 21st came. It was on a Saturday, Sunday. And I bought some clothes. It was so much fun buying little baby dresses again, And my friend, a good friend of mine, knew about the story. And she says, oh, I'd love to buy some clothes. So she bought clothes and we dressed her up and took pictures and bathed her and all of that. She was just beautiful and sent the pictures to David. And David says, my gosh, she's adorable. And I said, I know she is. But again, do not fall in love. And I said, I'm not, I got it. And so David and I were still talking and praying. And that evening I didn't have a crib, right? And it was like the weekend. I go, okay, where is this baby going to sleep? And I just named her Princess. There was no name I could think of. And I said, let's just call you Princess. And so the doctor said, she's about 4 months. She's about 4 months, about that. So today is December 20. So let's give her a birthday. And I go, okay, so let's backtrack. So it's now December. So she may have been born maybe sometime around May or June. So pick a month. And I go, I like June. All right. Then today's the date, December 20th. So you want to do it June 20th? I'll go ahead and write that down in her official paper. I said, yeah, June 20 sounds great. So that was her birthday, June 20, 2013. So then that evening, David and I still talked and we prayed. And he says, Lord God, help us find the perfect family for this young baby and this and that and this, and give Maria, the opportunity to talk and to talk to families and let the families be open-minded, and that Maria finds this perfect family for this child to be raised and get to know you and love you. So that was December 20, 21, 22. And then went to church, and then 24th came around, and then I got a phone call early in the morning. And then I'm going, oh, and so by the way, going back to the sleeping part, I got one of my suitcases. I padded it with pillow and towels and sheets to cushion it a bit. And I placed that suitcase right below my side because I had a single bed. So just enough where I could just look down and I go, okay, she's asleep. Okay, she's doing well. All right. She's quiet. Okay, that's good. So that was how she slept for the next 3 or 4 days. And I said, oh, it's going to be a little while. I'm not about to go to the department store during Christmas time and be around all of that traffic. So I can wait a few more days after Christmas. So that was my plan. Then David on December 24th called me up early in the morning. And then I go, hey, everything okay? And he says, yeah, I just wanted to call you. And I go, okay, well, what is it? And then he goes, I got up early and I looked outside the kitchen window, and there was this strong beam of light that just came through me. Now, before seeing that light, I sat down like I normally do in the mornings with my cup of coffee, and I was reading the Bible. And that reading that I read that very morning was all about what you and I are going through. And there I was with that light, and I knew it was God talking to me. And I go, oh, he talked to you? Like, what did he say? And then he says, because I was so baffled, there was just something about this child, but I didn't know how to say or explain. But then I asked God, show me something, show me a sign. What should we do? Help Maria find this couple, the family. But then God spoke to me, and I go, and what did he say? He says, David, whatever your concern is, because David kept saying, Lord, I'm senior citizen. I can't see myself raising a child at my age. This child needs to be with a young family, just like we were once, with all the vitality, the energy, and all of that. Not me. Maria and I were, seniors. And then says, God said to me, hello, what is your problem? Am I not the same God that has been there for you always and forever?
Amen. Yeah.
Am I not the same God that is going to be there and provide for you? All I ever want you to do is show her love, show her who I am, and
Oh,
raise her accordingly. It's you, David. It's you I want, you and Maria. And I will never leave you forsaken. Raise this child the way she should be.
oh,
And so he's asking me, and we were crying, and I go, "What? Really?" And then he goes, "So if you're willing to be a mommy again, I'll be a daddy again. Let's do this." And
oh.
I'm going, "Okay." And then he says, "I'll hurry up things here. I'll sell everything. I'll give them away just so I can be there and help you raise our little girl."
We're both
And
crying, and I'm like,
yes,
anybody who's watching at this moment, I'm like, I know you're crying too. There's no way that you could be listening to this testimony right here, right now, and not feel God, like God is here right now. God was there at that moment, and to just feel the love and
yes.
purity from your heart right now, yours and David's heart right now, like it's just beautiful. But go ahead with your testimony.
So then David went to the Philippines and very excited. And he says, "I know you raised our 5 children. You did a great job. I had to be away. I had to be gone and providing for the family. I really never knew what it was like to raise a child. Now God is giving me this opportunity. And I want to see what that's like. I want to be hands on. I want to be there for everything. Be by my side and guide me." And then I'm going, "Okay, if this is what you want." And you know what? I saw this man just light up, new life in him that I haven't seen in so many years. And he would be talking to me about the kind of love that we have for her and especially me. He says, and he says, "Thank you for giving me this opportunity. If you would have said no, I don't know how I would be or where I would be right now." And I said, "I had to say yes because of your excitement." And he says, "Yeah, and you know what? God is going to be there." And I said, "Absolutely." When the time came to where the adoption process and all that had to happen, well, we learned a lot of things about the adoption process in the Philippines. So I had to get my 5 children, 5 consent signatures from them. I had to come back to the United States. And during that time, the process, we had to be living there, which we were. And the 2 parents cannot be traveling and leave the child without a parent during the process of adoption. So David could not travel with me. So it was just me coming over to see the 5 kids. I had to go see each and every one of them and have them sign. 3 signed. The 2 boys did not. And this is what they said: "Mom, I'm not going to sign." And then I asked, and I said, "And may I ask why?" And then he says, "Mom, you and Dad are retired. You worked so hard. You raised us, and this is your retirement life. You're living your dream in a tropical island. You're traveling this and that. I'm having children. I'm raising them. Mom, it's not easy. And for you guys to be doing this all over again, I don't want that. I want to see you guys enjoy and travel and go places, not raise a child." And so when I told David that, he was kind of like sad, upset. And he says, "Okay, get me on the phone right now with the kids." So he did. He spoke to them. And then he says, "Guys, Mom shared with me about you not signing." Okay, I totally understand why you're not. And Mom shared with me the reason. He says, "Okay, guys, you know what it's like to put food on the table, right? You're dads now. You're raising kids. I wasn't there, and I know that. I wish that I could, but I couldn't. There were 5 of you. Mom did an excellent job raising all of you, but I wasn't there. So I'm asking you, don't deprive me of raising a child. Don't deprive me of this joy. Think about it." So the kid says, "Well, Dad, I don't want to deprive you of this, but still, my heart is still saying no. Can you just please find another family? Not you." And so this is what David says. "Well, you must have forgotten we live in a country where money talks." And then I'm going, "Okay, what's he about to say?" "Well, there are people here that I can pay X amount of dollars, just a few dollars, and they can certainly copy your signature. Done." And they all said, "No, you can't do that." And he says, "In third world countries, anything happens." Well, guess what? Yes, we did it that way. We had to. It was a very important document. So the adoption went through. It was amazing. And it took longer than usual, 8 years. And why 8 years when it could have been about maybe a 2 year, 3 year process? David and I fit the profile of child traffickers. Here's an American senior married to a local Filipina. What are they doing adopting a child? They must have ulterior motives. What are their plans, right? So they had to investigate my family, his family in the US, and all around friends and all of that. We had to submit different names and emails and numbers so they could call and do the investigation. So everything came through with flying colors. It just took a lot of time. So all of that happened. And then we got Rosamia's paperwork, and the name we gave her was Maria Rosario. Why I chose that name, Maria Rosario, Maria number one, is because being from the country, the Philippines, being a Catholic country, just about every young lady is a Maria and then a middle name. Although that doesn't happen anymore in today's generation, they're all using westernized names. But because I come from a very old fashioned life and background, so it had to be a Maria. Maria had to be there. And then Rosario was because we were at Santo Rosario Parish Church. So it was something commemorative, and I wanted that name because that was the church where I was when she was given to me. So that was her name, Maria Rosario. And then my sister says, "Oh my gosh, another Maria in the family. Really? Seriously? Could you have thought about another name?" And I said, "I'll tell you what, come up with a nickname, but her Maria Rosario stays." And so she says, "Okay, Rosa Mia, my Rose." And I said, "Oh, that's beautiful." So she does go with the name Mia. Rosa Mia, that is her nickname. So Mia knows everything. When that document came in, FedExed, and I was expecting that after all of the meetups with the attorney and this and that and the judges and this and that, David was asked all kinds of questions. And the very last meeting with the judge in the courtroom, right, the finalization of the adoption, was when the judge, they were asking me all kinds of questions. And then finally the prosecutor says, "Okay, I've asked a lot of questions now from Mrs. Lyons. I would like to call on the podium here at the stand the father to be Mr. David Lyons. I'd like to hear from him." And so there he was. He got up there and raised his hand and all of that. And then the judge said, "I have one question only for you, Mr. Lyons. What makes you think at your age you can raise a child?" So David looked at the prosecutor, looked at the judge, and I'm going, "Oh boy, how's he going to answer this?" And so David says, "Madam Prosecutor, Your Honor, Judge, I know that's a very valid question because of my age. Since I decided that I was going to be a dad again, I knew that I had to take better care of my health. I started doing a regimen of exercise. I started watching my food intake, do everything that I can to be better. My health challenges that I used to have, I'm working on that because I know I want to be there as I am raising her, for her to see and know a healthy, fun, loving dad, even at my age." And then he looked at the judge and he says, "Madam Judge, is it really so hard for me, a father, to ask you to be a full-time daddy, to love and cherish and raise this young lady as my daughter? Is it really that hard?" Everybody just looked at they just looked at each other, and then the judge just says, "No further questions." And that was it. And so the attorney says, "Okay, expect in the next few weeks you'll receive the full documentation, the full report, the adoption, everything." So when that document came in and I knew that was it, I was so excited. I was jumping up and down, and I opened up that envelope because I knew what it was. And I opened it. David and I were just jumping. We were doing high fives and we were saying, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord." We prayed. And then Rosa Mia was right there by our side. And then we looked at her. We gave her a big hug. And then she says, "What is all this?" I said, "Mia, I want you to read this right now." So the first few pages she read, and it said in there, "Maria Rosario O. Lyons is now officially the fully officially adopted daughter of blah, blah, the name, our name, residence, and this and that. And so we were so excited. And I said, so what does this mean for you, Rosamia? It's like you and I belong together forever. We are never, ever going to be separated. This is it. And then so she says, wow, this is so exciting. And then I said, and so Dad and I are going to plan to go to America. We're going to take you with us so you get to meet your brothers and sisters. And so, of course, the other kids that said no, of course, as time went by and they saw pictures and all the videos and all of that, they've learned to love her also and this and that. So David and I planned to come to America. And I said, okay, you've always traveled with me wherever I wanted to go. Now it's your turn to pick a state. And that's where we're going to be. So he says, well, I've always loved the South. And so I'd like North Carolina. I said, okay, sounds good to me. So we chose North Carolina. That was Mia's first stepping foot in America. It was LA, then in North Carolina. And she was so amazing to see her just looking around. And she goes, wow, look at all the roads. There are no holes. And look at all of the houses so lined up, so pretty. And look at all the trees. She was just in such amazement of everything and asking us so many questions. So it was so much of a joy. But then God had other plans, right? You just never know. And because God had other plans, let me just share something with you that my mom said to me. When I was holding that baby in my arms that very day after David and I had that FaceTime and David saw the baby for the first time, I called my mom. Mom was living in the US at that time. And I called her and I said, Mom, take a look at this baby. Oh my gosh, this is what happened. I'm here at the restaurant right now. We're still trying to ponder and think about what we're going to do next. And then I said, Mom, I can't have a child in my life right now. And the mom goes, why not? I go, Mom, no, David and I are retiring. David and I are seniors. We've done our part. We've raised 5 kids. We now have 10 grandkids. We're done, Mom. And then Mom says, well, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. I'll never forget that.
Yep.
So I'm going, okay. He says, God might have plans for you. We don't know. I said, okay. So that was it. So fast forward. So we came to America, living in North Carolina. And that was when David he got sick fast and he died fast within 4 weeks of his diagnosis. But when David was passing, and I must say it was a beautiful passing, it was so faith-based. We were praying the rosary, we were singing songs, we were listening to a lot of podcasts of St. Thomas More. Because when we arrived in the US, we made a road trip. And it was so cute because David bought an atlas for Mia and we went through 27 different states. He planned it, he worked it all out and showing Mia all the different amazing things of that state. He charted everything. And that was from North Carolina, how we traveled. And it was a 2.5 months worth of traveling. It was amazing. And Mia was going through the Atlas book, geography and this and that, and reading as we were talking, we were laughing. And so we came to Arizona and visited friends and family. And we went to St. Thomas More Church.
That's where me and Maria met, by the way.
Yes. Yes. And David said, I love this church. This church is amazing. Oh my gosh, Father John. Wow. I want to hear more of his podcasts every Sunday. So we went back home, from where we were and then back to North Carolina, different route. And that was when he got sick. Every day he would be listening from the very start of Father John's podcasts. He was listening. It gave him life. It gave him the strength to carry on. He was in so much pain, but never complained. And he had 2 very aggressive cancer that was happening, both lungs and colon. And the doctor said, there's nothing else we can do, Maria. Very 2 aggressive cancers happening. So with all of that, and David and I had a lot of time talking, and it was David that talked to Mia about his passing soon. And it was a beautiful moment. I took pictures of the 2 of them and I recorded David's voice as he was telling Mia. Mia was just quiet and she understood at that time, she understood about death because I talked to her about it. But to be happy, not to be sad. Yes, we're sad that we're losing dad, but God has plans. We don't question his plans. We know that he has a reason for all of this to happen. And so, as David was passing, he says, God is so amazing. He knew he was going to take me away, but he made sure you were going to have company. He made sure that you were going to laugh again, raise this child. And I know because of your strong faith, I know she's going to be in great hands. And I know that. And he says, and I cannot wait. And he says, thank you for letting me go peacefully. I am so excited to meet Mother Mary. I'm so excited to be up there. And I'm going to be there with you along the way as you're raising Mia. You know, I'm going to be there. And with your faith, the way that it is, to be just fine. Know that this is God's plan for you to raise her accordingly. So with that, Rosamia now, when I came and he said, leave North Carolina. You don't have family here. Thank you for bringing me back to the South. Leave for Arizona. That's where the family is. That's where your friends are. And go be a member of that amazing church. I know it might be a 30-minute drive, but you know what? It's okay. It's so worth it. And I said, you're right. And he says, please find a good Catholic school for Mia. And I said, I will. So I found one in Glendale. She's been there for 2 years now. Today was her last day of school. So excited. She's 11 years old and she's sixth grade. She's entering seventh grade and she brought me her certificate of AB honor roll student. So she has kept that strong for the last, since I'd say she struggled a bit the first quarter, but then she realized, hey, I better get this one good, right? Because we would always, and how Mia and I are at home, I would say, well, what would daddy think about that? What do you think he'd say if he saw that? Oh, hey, high five, this is great. So Mia and I, we have a picture of David around the house. We talk, we laugh, and, we pray every morning, every night. And the prayers when Mia and I pray together at night, she's amazing. She'll say, at the end saying good night, this and that. And she would say, and thank you, Mother Mary, for choosing my mom for me. And I would say, well, thank you, Mother Mary, for choosing Rosamia to enter my life. And then we say each other good night. So she knows and she understands fully well where she is, her new beginning. And she's very excited about one day she says, I'd like to find a way to give back and help young children that are orphaned. And maybe if I can just talk to them that, keep your faith strong. God has plans for each and every one of us. And we just never know, but don't ever stop praying. And she realizes all that. And I'm very proud of her. Would you like me to come and get her?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love
Yeah.
for you to introduce her because I know
Yes.
like telling your testimony and people's minds and imaginations are going wild, like trying to picture this. So
Yeah.
yeah, bring her on. And
All
I
right.
would love to, have her say something too, if
Absolutely.
she
Okay,
doesn't
let me
mind.
see. No,
That
no,
would be
not.
amazing.
Let me see. Let me give her a quick buzz.
I love it.
And if there are any questions you want to ask me, I know I've been talking.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you, how old were you and David when she was actually handed to you?
All right. I was 57 and David is 4 years. So he was like in the 62, right
Okay.
around there.
Okay. And then how old was Mia when she came to America, to the US?
All right. She was 9 years old.
9 years old. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. And she'll
Yes.
be 12 in June,
Yes.
right? Yep. Coming up.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Okay.
she didn't pick up the phone. So let me go get her.
Okay. Perfect.
Hey, Mia. Okay. So here is Mia. Come over here,
Hi,
Mia.
Mia. It's Monica from church. How are you?
All right. You know her? Would you like to sit here for a bit? I'm going to get something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, your mother just told us everything about your story and about how you were handed to her as an infant, and that was in the Philippines. And she just basically was like telling, the entire testimony and then also talking about your dad, David. And it's just such a really cool testimony. And she also talked about how you guys pray every morning and you thank God for the fact that, she was given to you as a mother. So, how do you feel about like hearing that and growing up knowing that that's how it all came about?
I think that I'm like lucky that she found me, and I'm grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love the fact too that she's raising you in the church and that you do have such a close relationship with God. And I love that part of it. And she talks about too, when David passed that he really talked to you about that entire process. Do you think that that helped give you peace through all of that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you guys still talk about him every day. That's really cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. Aw. And so she said that one of the things that you talk about is that you would love to give back, to help give other orphans hope, through their situation. So what do you think in that space that you would love to get involved with?
Like the church community, like maybe helping others with that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you think that you'll ever adopt?
Maybe if I want to in the future.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love seeing you around church and at all the different concerts. You seem to really enjoy yourself. Oh, well, that's so cool. I just love it. I'm so glad that you were able to jump on. You're so young. I know it's hard to have a camera thrown in your face. So thank you so much for coming on and talking to everybody. This is actually going to go on YouTube, so we'll have to send you the link to that. All right. Thank you, Mia.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you, Mia. All right, so
Oh,
I have a photo here
she's so
of
sweet.
the first few hours. Hang on, hang on, hang on.
There you go. Now the glare is out. Aw. Aw, and that was when she was literally just handed to you?
Yes,
Oh
yes,
my goodness.
that was her. Yes, and then
Little
la-
angel Mia.
I know. Then a month
Aw.
later,
Aw.
I know,
She's so precious.
and she is. Yeah. So God just—it's amazing, right? How God is just
Oh, yeah.
all of these plans.
Yep.
And what a lot of my friends ask me, so, I mean, how do you do it? Tell me, being a mom again at your age. Well, yeah, I have to do everything that I can, watching my food intake, being active, taking my nutrition, doing all that I can to stay active because I want to be there for Mia. I want to be her friend and then mom. I want to be able to enjoy all the things that what it's like raising her again and giving her the life that she deserves, that I know that David would love to have given her if he was here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
that's what it's
do.
like. And challenges, yes. But here's what's so funny. So we had a, nice family gathering over the Christmas time with my children and grandkids. And it was so funny because Mia asked me, "Hey, mom, can I do this, do that, do this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." The kids looked at me and looked at her. "Mia, get over here right now. Let me talk to you." If when we asked that question to mom, oh, no, no, no. She didn't just say yes right away. "Mom, you've become soft.
Ah, that's so funny.
Mom, you've become a softie." What? For you to just say yes to what she asked for? I know. It was
That's
it was funny
hilarious.
seeing that. Yeah.
I know. I love everything about your testimony. Obviously, I still remember the day that we met. We met on a Thursday night at the women's group and we had shared some things at the table and you were like, "I feel like I need to know you. Can I have your phone number?" We talked on that Sunday. I was putting together a shoe rack on my bedroom floor.
I remember that.
Yeah, and you were sharing your testimony with me, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, yes, I need to have you on my podcast for sure to tell this." But there's so many things that, and I was taking notes the entire time. I promise I was paying attention, but I was, taking notes as we go along because there's a lot to your testimony, obviously. I love the fact, that you first talk about how, you were $1 million in debt.
Yes.
A lot of people would look at that as such an impossible thing to get out of. And, what I heard throughout your entire testimony, really, and not just for that, was the teamwork that you had between you and your husband.
Yes.
which is such a great example of, marriage is not always easy, right? And that when it is actually a God ordained marriage, it's all about that teamwork. It's all about your purpose in life, right? And carrying out God's plan, right? That's who you should be partnered with, not for all
Yes.
the fairy tale reasons. And it sounds like you
Exactly.
and David were the perfect match for that in many ways, not only for business, through getting through the bankruptcy, but then also being presented with Mia, and then also raising, your 5 children, and then your now 14 grandchildren, which
Yes.
is just incredible. I love everything about it. And
Well, thank you.
the things that I heard, and also you said that it took 5 years to rebuild after that and get out of that debt, and
Yes.
I think that that is probably the hardest part of everybody's testimony is the wait, right?
Yeah.
Is the amount of time when our prayers are not answered immediately. It can get
Yes.
frustrating, but you guys did not lose your faith. And you guys, and again, not saying that it was perfect, but you guys clung to each other, and together you guys were able to work through that. And I love that part of it. And I love the story of the gentleman who said that he was observing you before handing Mia to you. So obviously he took the time to take it to God. He took the time to observe you to make sure that Mia was going to be handed over to a stable person that was going to be able to provide for her. And I love that part of it too. It's like he picked you, God picked you for sure. And here you guys are looking for another family to adopt her. And then as you go through it, you're like, okay, nobody meets those requirements. And then all signs pointed back to you guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, that you're like, okay, you'd have to be in the Philippines. You'd have to have this much
Right.
money. And then you were just like, oh, that's us.
Exactly. Right.
And I love the other part of it where, you talk about how sometimes, like you said, we can plan it one way, but God has a different plan. But the road is not always perfect. It's not always easy without the challenges. And one of those challenges you talk about is your 2 boys, who obviously now have a great relationship with Mia, like you said, and, love her. But at that time, they were thinking logically, as most people do, right? You go through the checklist and you're like, this just logically does not make sense. You guys are already retired, or sorry, retiring. You guys have already raised the 5 grandchildren. And at that time, you said that you had 10 grandchildren. So logically, to outside people, it did not make sense. But David knew, and you knew what God had spoke to you, and you knew that you were going to stay that path and do whatever it took, even though you guys were, profiled as fitting the sex trafficking, which
Mhm.
that's a hard thing to come up against. I don't know, a lot of people would be like, whoa, I don't even want to touch that. I don't want to try to even get over that hurdle. But David knew what God spoke to him. And
Yes.
I love that he knew, he stayed true to that. And then let's see. Da, da, da. And then I also love the piece. I always say that, like, when I go, I want you guys to celebrate my life. I don't want everybody to wear black. I know that that's like a tradition. And I don't want everybody to be like super sad and crying. I want people to talk about the things that I accomplished in my life, and maybe how we interacted and the love that we exchanged between each other. I want it to be an actual celebration of life. And I love that. And I love the fact that in those 4 weeks after his diagnosis, he took the time to speak that life into Mia for her to also carry on and to give her that peace. And I love that. I love everything about your testimony. You can see it in your eyes. In the Bible, it talks about the fruits of the Spirit, right? And you certainly have that just in this conversation. And obviously, I know you personally. And every time I see you, I see the joy, I see the peace, I see the God shining through you. It's very, very apparent when I interact with you,
Wow. Thank
and
you.
other people as well. So
Thank you, Monica. There's something else I'd like to share with everyone here that's listening. So, being a child, being a preteen, Rosamia, sadly, not a lot of her friends go to church. All right. So then she asked me one day, this is about 2 months ago, Mom, so I know about God. I am going to a Catholic school. Why do I have to continue? I mean, why do you continue going to church? You know about him. We pray to him. Isn't that enough? But why do we have to continuously go to church? I mean, don't be mad at me, Mom. It's just a question. And I said, I totally understand, Mia. And that's a very good question.
It is.
Now, let's go back. I said, my faith. So, I'm 66 years old and I've not stopped going to church. Now, why is that, right? Okay, now let's go back to the time when you were handed to me. If I didn't have faith, if my faith was not that strong to where I understood then later on, not right away, what God had planned for me. I don't really know what his plans are, but at that very moment, he knew that I was going to be that capable person for you because he knew my faith. I was unshakable. If I did not have that faith, why would I take you? Why would I say yes? So now to answer your question, as we go to church every Sunday, holy days of obligation, that is who we are, what we do. It's because it strengthens your faith each and every time. Just going to church one time doesn't do it. It's an everyday life. It's a way of life. One day I'll be gone too. And it's because of your faith. You start it now while you're young to where one day you will make the right decision based on your faith.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, okay, Mom, you sound like my religion teacher now.
I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. I know my children always tell me, they joke, they'll look at each other when I'm,
Right.
talking about a lesson in life. And then they say, we know everything's always a lesson. There's always a lesson in
Exactly.
everything. Oh my gosh. I love them. They're
Yes,
adorable.
I
Yeah.
know.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that explanation. And I love that she's asking questions. You know,
Yes.
that's what we should do, right?
Yes.
We shouldn't just, follow suit and do things without actually understanding why
Right.
we're doing them. Yeah. And having the free will to do so. So I
Yeah.
love that. And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on too is that, your husband had said, as I leave, I know that she's going to be here for you to smile and to bring you joy and that you guys are going to have a blast. And I just wanted to say for those that are listening, I follow Maria on social media and I'm also her personal friend at church. And I can definitely verify they do just that. They are traveling every day, they're cooking together. They're doing all kinds of things that are a lot of fun. And I see it in you guys that, she keeps you young, right? You continuously have that zest for life. And, you may be 66 years old, but you're 30 at heart, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that. I love seeing you guys bounce around everywhere. It's just so beautiful to see that you have that relationship with each other. And then another thing that I wanted to point out that really stood out to me about your testimony is that when he was having David, when he was having the interaction with your children, specifically your two sons that did not want to sign for Mia, I loved the fact that his answer was not about Mia, which obviously it is, to provide a home for her. And, we're called to care for orphans, right? As Christians. But he said, don't deprive me of this joy. And, it's a two-way thing here, like not only were you guys providing a home for Mia and obviously, helping to raise, and you're also bringing her up in the church, right? So that's a big deal. But it's about the joy that you feel being able to carry out that blessing. And, what a blessing for just all of you guys, for your children as well, obviously, right? This taught them a lot through this process. But the fact that, Mia has a safe home, she isn't out, unfortunately, because a lot of children do end up in sex trafficking.
Yes.
You are sheltering this child from all of these horrible things out there. Like you said, she was going to be put back on the street if she
Yes.
was to go there. So, it's beautiful all around. I just sat there. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were telling your testimony. I know that a lot of people's hearts are going to be captured through this, through your testimony, to not only give them the strength to get through things like, financial hardships and things like that. You also took a risk by, telling your husband, hey, let's move to the Philippines, right? And let's go start a business out there. So that talks about those leaps of faith that you're taking. And then just also opening up your heart to, even though it doesn't make sense, because maybe you are a senior citizen, that you didn't sacrifice anything. Mia added to your life. it wasn't
Mhm.
really a sacrifice.
No.
And who would have expected that David was going to end up getting diagnosed with cancer and die within 4 weeks? And here you are, although you don't have him and now you're a widow, it's like you were left Mia there and you're not alone. God is certainly with you guys, but you also have Mia there. And I love your testimony. It touches me every time. I think I cried at least 3 times during
Yeah.
this interview. And I'm just so grateful, when we met that Thursday night and you were like, I would love to tell my testimony on your podcast. And you're always so busy. So we've had to reschedule this a few times, but here we are. This was clearly meant to be the moment that we
Yes.
actually did it for whatever reason. And I hope that people who are watching, that this gives you hope. It gives you
Yeah.
hope. It gives you strength. It redirects you back to maybe your faith with God too. And that if you are presented with an opportunity to foster or to adopt, that maybe this will touch your heart, and the Holy Spirit will convict you to take the same steps that Maria and David did. So I don't know. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say in closing before we log
Yes,
off?
yes. To our listeners, a lot of you moms there, here's one thing that I do every Sunday or every opportunity that I have when Mia is in church with me. So, when we're driving home, I will ask her and I said, Mia, let's talk about the homily that Father talked about. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you thought about what he said? How does that apply to your life, your age right now? What do you understand about what he said? And so as I'm listening to her, I'm going, okay, very good. Let me add a little bit more. And then what I do is I preface that to life, where she's going, where she is currently. And I said, I know, and here's what's amazing. Her teachers had a meeting with me, the parent teacher kind of thing.
Yes.
And they said, you know what? There is just something about Mia. Because you know how it is here in school, they have their little cliquish little group.
Mm-hmm.
If you belong to this group, you can't be mingling with the other group. It just doesn't happen that way. So we asked Mia because she's out there with the other groups, and Mia told the other groups, if you want me to be with you, you cannot say bad things about my friends on the other group.
Love it.
And so, you group, if you want me to be with you, you want me to join you, I choose not to join any of your groups because I am friends with all of you. I will continue to be a friend as long as you don't talk bad about anybody else
Mhm.
because they are all my friends. And so the teachers heard that and they go, she is so unique. How do you, I mean, how did she become this way? And I said, Lord, that has to be you.
Aw.
And it's because of her exposure
Mhm.
to the church. And sadly, like I said, not all of her friends go to church. So it's her exposure to church. And I know that because she and I, when we have our little quiet mom and daughter moment, we talk about things like that. And I tell her that you are the chosen one to make that difference. Do you know what that means? So I go back to the time when she came into my life. It's all about being the chosen one, Mia. And God has ways of choosing you to be there for your friends. And you carry that with you for the rest of your life. So I just wanted to share that with you because the teachers talked to me. Like, we need to talk to you, Maria, about your daughter. And the school knows about her life story. So it is
Mhm.
beautiful. She's well loved, respected. All the kids are just happy to be around her.
Yeah.
And it's because she has that spirit in her, that joy
Yeah.
that she has. And as long as, I mean, we love the Lord. I cannot imagine raising, children these days, moms and dads out there. I know it's tough sometimes, it's a challenge, but find a way, make it a big part of your lives to talk to your children about our faith.
Yes.
Some of you
Absolutely.
may not be Catholic, and that's okay,
Yeah.
but talk about the love of Jesus Christ
Yeah.
and for you and the family and what we are raising these days. Gosh, they're already surrounded with so many things that is not that good out there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that. I
I
think,
know.
to sum up, if I had to sum up your whole testimony, with just a few words, just everything that is screaming at me is absolutely love, faith, and community. And that's
Yes.
how everything came together, and it's just beautiful. And I cannot thank you enough, Maria, for agreeing, to be on the podcast, or wanting to be on the podcast rather. And sharing your testimony with everybody. I hope that you continue to do so. I know that you wanted to write a book about this. I encourage you to do that. Please write a book about this. I know
Oh,
that people really need to
I
hear
need your
this
help.
testimony.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll help you do the research. And I'm looking
Yes,
forward to, we have a dinner that you are planning with
yes,
me, you, Gabby,
yes,
Martine, and we're going to
yes.
come over and you're going to make, what was the name of that movie again?
Nonas.
Known
No,
as, yeah. And what's the name of the dish that you're going to make?
they called it in the movie Sunday gravy. And as I researched it, and I'm a good friend of this new guy right now that I met from my brother's church. He's Italian, and he talked about the Sunday gravy. And as I read about the recipe and how it's basically like a pasta sauce, but it
Mhm.
has meat texture in it. It's not a marinara. Marinara is more light, a little bit more watery, but this one is more robust, more gravy-ish in texture. So that's what we're going to have. And yes, I love to cook.
Excited. Oh, yes, yes. Wait, we cannot hang up yet. The product right now that you have done for years, you have a health product. Tell us about
Yes.
that before we hang up, and I will share the link. And then also, if you want people to follow your personal social media, I know that you're always posting things about cooking and all the different, things that you do with Mia. So I'd like for you to share all of that. That way we can get you some more followers too, because
Oh,
what
wonderful.
you really promote, healthy faith-based activities, that I feel like so much of our culture now is based around drinking and drugs and, not so healthy worldly things. And so I love all of the things that all of us ladies in our church group promote, is like getting outside, doing different things, cooking, doing healthier things. So go ahead, tell me about your product.
All right. So there are two products that I'm really very excited about because again, at my age, I'm doing everything that I can to live a very healthy life to where I don't have any aches and pains, to where I can go out there and, kick the ball with Mia, playing soccer, volleyball, all the sports activities that she's doing. And so one product that I've been part of for 25 years is called Relive, Reliv. It's soy based, just enough soy is a protein in there, but it has all the nutrients, the vitamins that our body needs to produce and to continue making our cells healthy. We're all made up of cells. You nourish the cell, the body will respond beautifully. And another product, and Mia drinks it every day. It's her go-to brain food, supplements that she drinks and every day. And, hence her memory is amazing. And the way she copes with school, everything. She's just an amazing child drinking these products. And a lot of moms that are also giving it to their children, they're seeing wonderful results in them. And another product that I'm very excited about is this. It's a patch, stem cell patches. And what they do is it's not transdermal, nothing goes inside the body, but our body has heat, infrared. So if you think about the movies in the past, with military, with the goggles at night, the night goggles,
Yes.
when they see the person walking, they see the light, the heat in our body. So what this one will do is going to activate that dormant stem cell with the heat that we have inside our body. Once that is woken up, then it starts working all over the body very fast and effectively. And it's very safe for children to take, people on lots of medication. And what this has done for me, I used to have a lot of pain in my hand. I could not open it. It's not arthritis. In my younger days, I owned a catering business, a lot of cooking and chopping, right hand. And I owned for 20 years 3 bridal and formal stores. And I carried heavy gowns this way, which was a very wrong way of doing it. And I broke a lot of tendons. And over the years, scar tissue buildup. It was so painful. And it was so hard to open up this hand. But within 30 minutes of putting this patch, I felt the pain diminish. And now I'm able to open my hand. Now, I don't wear it all the time on this hand. I normally would wear it on the back of my nape. When I know I'll be doing a lot of cooking, a lot of cleaning up, whatever I have to do, then I know I'm going to wear it here so I don't have any pain. And I don't have any pain as long as I have this. So every 4 days, I move it around here. If not, I put it on my back. So I'm so excited about this because it's also age reversal. Hence, hello,
Love
right?
it. And you look beautiful. You definitely do not look your age
Thank you.
or act it. You are very active. I've seen this woman dance.
Ah, yes.
So
And
fun.
it's all about, giving your body what it needs. Our body is not dependent and it should not be living on medication. And there's already a lot of stuff out in the market and we don't know what they are. And, thank you for the little shout out about these products. I'm very excited about it. And
Yes.
if you know anybody that is in chronic pain, message me, message Monica, chronic pain, any kind of health concern, because it's all about the stem cells that's inside our body that will just wake everything up. And again, it's not
Beautiful.
medication.
Yes, beautiful. I love it. I absolutely will put the links below the YouTube video and also on Spotify. I can put the links on
Thank
there
you.
as
Thank you.
well.
Can I
Yeah.
share one more thing
Yeah.
to just kind of let
This,
you guys know? So,
this is your episode. So you say it all, Maria. Spotlight's on you.
so I do my best to really do a lot of things with the children. And with everybody's schedule, it's very hard to get all the 5 kids with their schedules and all that, right? So last year, we all went on an Alaskan cruise. I mean, 7 days.
I have heard from everybody, doesn't matter their age, that is their favorite cruise that they've ever been on is the Alaskan cruise. And I
Yes.
have yet to go on it. I've actually never been on a cruise, but I want to go on that one. It's on my bucket list.
Let's go.
So
I'm ready to
I'm
go.
like, tell me all about it.
All right. The 7 days, it was amazing because you go to so many different ports and it was in the month of June. And oh my gosh, the temperatures were like in the feast
Wow.
in the month of June. 40. So anyway, and my children told me, Mom, bring heavy clothing and all this and that. The children had a great time. They were all partying together. And I said, we're going to be here for 7 days. And I want 3 or 4 days, all the children with me. And you guys party. Now, one of the places that we went to as a family, and it was so much fun, is Name That Tune. And you
Name
get
that tune.
prizes.
Yeah.
And it was around 9 o'clock at night. They plan it around that time before you go to bed, just kind of relaxing. So we went, we planned it. And so we were all given a piece of paper. All the kids were very excited. They were all right there next to each other and said, name that tune. And so, of course, the parents would go, oh, I know that song. I know that song. Mia was amazing. She wrote down the names of the songs
Oh my
and she was
goodness.
humming it in her head. Oh, I know that song. I know that song. And all of my kids were looking at her and the grandkids go, how do you know all of that, Mia? What?
Oh,
These are songs from the 70s and 80s. How do you know that? And they go, hello. Mom drives me every morning to school, 30 minutes
yeah.
one way, 30 minutes back. Guess what songs we listen to?
I love it. Yeah. My mom raised me on oldies and my dad raised me on country. And then my brother had listened to alternative. So I love all the music.
Yes, yes. And then, so while we were there, the kids were planning trips for the following year, which is this summer. And they all said, Mom, we want to go out of the country. And so 4 kids are going out of the country, not all at the same time because their schedules. They're paying for my airline tickets round trip with Mia. I get to spend 7 days here, 5 days here, 10 days
Wow.
here, 4 different states, all taken care of by the kids.
I
Now,
love
Mia's
it.
going, excuse me, my summer is going to be babysitting.
I love it.
I know. And I go, oh, come on, let's have fun with this. I need you there, Mia, because, I'll be a mom again and doing all of these things. Come on, let's have fun with this. I promise I'll give you a nice little something, when we get back. So I planned it in such a way. No, no. So we planned it in such a way that Mia will have a good 3 weeks of no travel before school starts. And I told her, I promise I can do whatever you want to do because you've been with me all of this time. Because Mia, I need your help too. There are some toddlers.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You guys have so much fun together, and I love to see that. I love to see it. You have just created such a great space for Mia, and God knew you would, and your husband knew you would.
There you
So
go.
I love
So
your testimony. I love it.
oh, thank you.
We got
Thank
to
you.
get that book written.
Yes, help me with that
Yes,
because you have all the experience. I would love to give hope to others. That's what
yes.
it's all about, is giving hope.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, we got to get that done for sure. But I will see you soon for that dinner where
Yes.
yes, and I thank you again. And for everybody who's watching, God bless. Thank you, Maria, for being on.
You're welcome, and thank you.